Thank you, ladies and gents, for tuning in today to the BBC radio station. Be sure to stick around for today's session on modern learning. Several people were interviewed to produce this program from places like Peru, Australia, and more. I'll turn this over now to our spokesperson.
Today we're comparing what high school is like in other countries. I acknowledge that different states and regions do things differently. This is just the information the station received from those that were interviewed to give a general idea. First off, the USA. Typically, school starts at around 7:30 a.m. and finishes around 3 p.m. You have lockers to store things and about 7 classes every day. Sports are played after school, or clubs are also participated in. Normally, there is no uniform, but there is definitely a dress code. Just like in the movies, you can see a fight break out possibly at your school. You have a lunch break and the option to eat a hot lunch or bring your own. You address your teacher as Mr. Last Name or Mrs. Last Name. It's considered polite as well to ask your teacher how their day is. In Italy, school starts at around 8 a.m. and ends, well, it really depends on the school because there's a variety of schools you could go to. There's a hospitality high school, a science high school, a language, classical studies, which is ancient Greeks and stuff, accounting, and so on and so on. There are many different types. High school is about 5 years if you want to go to university. You don't have any lockers because you stay in the same classroom the whole day, and instead it's the teachers who move around to different classes. There are about 6 hours every day in a class, but classes times vary. There's no sports or clubs after school. In Italy, normally there is no uniform unless you go to a private school, but in elementary, all the kids wear a lab coat-looking thing over their clothes. There's not really any fights in school. It's more, meet me here after school. Unlike the USA, Italy doesn't even have detention. Instead, they have notations. If you misbehave, then it could eventually affect your grades as a consequence. High school doesn't provide time for lunch in Italy, unless maybe you're in a private school. Instead, you go the whole day without eating until you get home. There are also no water fountains in school. There are vending machines where you can buy water, but you're not allowed to drink it in class. In school, you address the teacher as professor. If you call them teacher, they'll likely get annoyed or really mad because teacher is more an elementary term. If you ask the professor how their day is, they will tell you to mind your own business. There's also a field trip once per year that lasts about a week. Next, Australia. School starts at about 9 a.m. and finishes at 3. Most of the middle class and the upper class send their kids to private school because the schooling is better and the public school is crappy. Kids are required to wear uniforms. There are dresses in the summer for girls and quilts in the winter, and a button-up shirt with a tie. Boys wear button-up shirts and a tie all year round, with the only change being pants or shorts for winter or summer. Both wear sweaters with the school logo or colors and are meant to wear a very uncomfortable blazer. The only good thing about the blazer is you can attach fun pins to it. School uses a block schedule where there's only 4 classes every day, but you won't have the same classes every day. After the first hour of school, there's a break called tea time. The students go and eat outside to chat or play downball. Downball is much like the American foursquare, but with 6 squares and a tennis ball. Rules also vary a bit, but that's the general idea. After 2 more classes, there's lunch, then 1 more class to finish the day off. There are many different types of sports and clubs to pick from, with some schools even requiring students to participate in at least 2. It's not uncommon for Australian schools to have excursions, which are field trips, or to have sport days, where there are different houses much like Harry Potter houses, competing in a variety of sports. And lastly, Peru. Class starts at about 8 a.m. and goes till 3:30 p.m. Similar to Australia, the public schools are very crappy, so it's normal to go to private school. The private school there isn't fancy, unlike Australia, but more simple, similar to American public schools. There are also uniforms. Girls wear a skirt with overalls, and for seniors, they are allowed to pick what type of graduation jacket they want. All the seniors have to agree on how it'll look, and they can get it at the end of their junior year. You bring your own lunch for school, or you can buy little snacks from the school shop. Sports are played at school, like soccer, but they're less intensely competitive and more just the sport for the sport's sake. There are 5 classes every day, but there are also 2 extra hours after for preparing for the college acceptance test. They call teachers professor, but profe for short. When it comes to classrooms, it's more like the Italian style, with the teachers leaving and there's no lockers. There's not really school fights. The principal is much more concerned with looking at kids to make sure they don't kiss or hold hands. There's also no detention. You're just made to wait for 30 minutes after class. They do use notation, but they're different from the Italians, where it doesn't affect your grade. More so, it's like a note that someone was bad that could eventually lead to being expelled. Thank you so much for joining us today for our program. Hope to have you tuning in next week.